Welcome to Lifing 101, a journey through life's experiences, challenges, and interpretations. An intriguing and soul-refining podcast that explores the countless twists of life. Get ready to be amused, enlightened, entertained, empowered, and inspired. Hosted by Tina C. Christian, your MC with the LPC, and guest co-host Lorenda McKinney, your MC with the PhD.
Welcome, lovely listeners, to an exciting episode of Lifing 101 podcast,
where we dive into life's little mysteries and offer you insights to help you lead a happier, more fulfilling life.
I'm your MC with the LPC, Tina C. Christian, navigating y'all through this journey up and down and all around on this emotional roller coaster we call life.
And I'm your MC with the PhD, Lorenda McKinney. So grab your favorite beverage, find a comfortable spot, sit back and relax while we embark on this restorative journey together.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening out there. We're in our 2024 Toxic Free series. This is like the third or fourth one now?
Yeah, this is, I think, the fourth one?
Yeah. So we've talked about toxic traits, toxic people, toxic co-workers, correct, and toxic friends or friendships. So today we have a good one for you guys. I don't know that many people think about this, but honestly, I had a friend that asked me, were we going to do or something on toxic kids? So right now, I see a lot on social media, FTK, fuck them kids. And I think that has a lot to do with some of these toxic kids. And don't get me wrong, they don't have to be adult children. They can be little kids as well. I know, working as a mental health therapist with children, I've seen some very toxic children. So no, we're not just making this crap up. It's for real. There are some toxic kids. We thought that we would share with you guys today some of those traits, which probably hard to realize and think of when you think of a child, especially a young child. Probably not so much when you think of an adult child, but as a parent, you may not want to accept that or see that in your child as well. Here we go trying to tell you about your kids. So don't be getting mad. But hey, if the truth hurts, I'm sorry. Anyway, when you think about toxic kids, Doc, I know you don't have any children, but I know you're a wonderful auntie, cousin, and all that, and you done raised some kids in your time and seen some badass kids, and I know you have that thought too, like FTK sometimes, I'm sure. So when you think about toxic kids, what are some of the things that you think about in toxic kids?
Well, you are absolutely correct.
Correct. Yes.
You're correct. I don't have any that belong to me by blood like that, but we're all, if you're around kids, you have some type of influence on them and they also affect you too. It's just no way to have them around and not be affected by them.
Right.
I would say a big one probably is the dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know children will tell big old fibs.
Yeah, make up stories and tell tales.
Yeah. And I know back in the day when we were younger, we couldn't say the word, you lying or you a liar.
You better not.
But at my big old age now.
Right, we say that.
Kids do be lying.
Correct.
So I definitely think that's probably a big one.
It is. And I know children have big imaginations. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about just imaginative and play and everything like that. I'm speaking of children that just flat out lie. Mm-hmm. That's what I think of when I'm thinking of, dishonest children, or just lie for no reason or lie for other reasons, such as being manipulative.
Right.
That's another toxic trait in these children. You may not want to believe it and or see it, but again, kids can manipulate. I have had a couple of times children in my family that I've noticed were manipulative in a certain way. And sometimes I guess you have to think about it. Where the hell did they get this from?
Right.
Some of it very much is learned behavior.
I agree.
So if they have a toxic parent or they're around toxic relatives or they're learning these toxic traits from other peers or at school, they could be just kind of mimicking and mocking. But then again, that could be a part of their personality as well. So if you see that in a child, if it's all the time, I'm sure that they're probably going to be a toxic adult.
Right. Because they just not going to all of a sudden probably stop lying and being manipulative. They're going to find out as a kid that it can work for them in their favor, and they're going to continue to do it.
And that's a good point, because a lot of times parents are creating these monsters by allowing this manipulative behavior to be kind of rewarded. Or, you're actually catering to this or giving in when they're trying to manipulate and do these things. But that's not okay, because, again, you're teaching these children that it's okay to manipulate people and get what you want. When And that's very much a toxic trait.
Right. It is a toxic trait. And just like they say, you need to prepare your kids for society because they're going to have to go out there without you and they're going to have to function. And everybody is not going to be as patient and generous with your children as you are. And we know we always have the parents to say, my kids wouldn't do that. My kids don't do that. They wouldn't say that. And then you have the real parents to say, I wouldn't say what my kids won't do.
Especially not in front of me. Yeah. Because I would have thought some things that my children have done in the past they would have never done in a million years. I mean, still, I would think that they wouldn't, but I know that they did.
Right.
So you can't say what a child won't do, especially when they're not in front of you.
Right.
And as far as the manipulative behavior and learned behavior from others, you know, you have to really, like she said, or like Doc said, not she, but Doc, I'm talking to them and you, but like Doc said, you know, we sit up and say what our kids won't do and everything in front of us, and you want to believe that your kids are good, but these kids are out here learning stuff from other people as well. So it's not just what you're teaching or what you're raising your children to be in the home. They're picking that stuff up from other people as well.
For sure.
And also, like Doc said, we need to raise them for society. I used to tell my husband all the time, we're not raising little children, we're raising young adults. Because one day they're going to be out here and they're going to need to know how to do X, Y, Z, how to fend for themselves, and how to be decent, responsible, honest people. Now, what they do once they leave here, we can't control that. However, we do want to mirror the behavior that we want them to do and to teach them and be good role models. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you at least want to create some guidelines, some boundaries, some respect. Like, you at least want to create that. Right. So if they get grown and go out, people that know, that's not how you raise your child.
Right.
But you can't control everything about them once they get grown and go out. But however, as long as they reside at your address, you can control that. And the thing about it is, if they know that they can get away with it, they will continue to do it.
Yeah.
And if they feel like their parents are not even enough to say, my kid wouldn't do that, they'll continue to do it.
Correct. I mean, and if you're rewarding the behavior, then what the hell is the incentive not to do it?
Right. Right. So they feel like they win it.
Right. And so speaking of that, when you were talking about the parents, we're talking about parents being responsible parents and teaching our children. So I think about the controlling child, whereas the parent has allowed the child to control the relationship and or the roles in the home, and they allow them to get away with things. I know you don't have to beat the hell out of your kids, and it is against the law. However, there is a such thing called discipline.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But you look and you see these children, you see them, y'all seen them, and y'all probably got some, or y'all probably raising some, or y'all know some. They're out here being very disrespectful and very abusive, physical and verbally abusive to their parents, to teachers, and to others. But my husband sent me a darn Instagram post about a week or so ago. And it's funny, but it's not funny because it's like, really? This is how these
what
children
we doing
are
now?
acting. And so it was like a program or something. They were like in the auditorium or something. Little kids, preschool look like, maybe. So the ladies up front, I guess she was one of the preschool teachers or something, and she was trying to tell the kids like we're about to start the program or something.
Right.
And so she starts talking and the little boy goes, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, oh my God. He looked like he couldn't have been more about 4.
Oh, wow.
So the lady keeps talking and was he
talking to her or the noisy kid?
No, he's talking straight, looking straight ahead, talking to her. So then she keeps talking and he goes, she's asked a question or something. He was like, no, bitch. And I'm like, oh my God. So I guess it was another worker or something, but it was a man. He got up, he's like, that's enough. And just snatching him up out of there. But I'm like, what the hell? And that's a little toxic ass kid. Now, where did he get this from and why?
Well, was he available for comments when his parents got there is the question. Was he available? Right. Because I would have never done it because my mama was going to kill me 4 times. So was he available for comments when his parents came? Because that is crazy.
Okay. And I'm telling you, he looked like maybe he was like 4.
Oh, no.
And so, I mean, literally the lady or the teacher or whoever, she's up there literally trying to talk. And he's like, shut the fuck up. And then she's like asking him a question like, do you need to leave or something? Or are you going to be okay or something? And he's like, no, bitch. And
yeah, because with that mouth, you definitely got a car outside. So you may need to leave. And they wonder why we can't get any good teachers because the money does not equal the behavior that you have to deal with.
No. You can pay me $1 million to even work with little children these days.
I probably would take $1 million.
I ain't taking $1 million. You want to give me $1 million a month. Because these kids, baby,
Oh
let me tell you,
my!
they are something else.
That's way too young.
That's
way too
4
young.
or 5. So just imagine if this is the behavior that's going to be rewarded or overlooked or allowed to continue. Just imagine what he's going to be like when he's 24,
Right.
34,
Right.
44.
And then physical stuff will come along with those words.
Yeah, because he's already verbally abusive to a woman.
And a grown up.
Yes. No respect, no kind of fear of consequences,
I'm telling you.
evidently.
Times have just changed. So
They really have.
a few years back, I was working at a long-term care facility, and I was walking into the building from my car, and it was a car full of young boys, and they were hollering out the car at me. And I thought to myself, we would have said, that's a grown-up.
Correct.
But times have changed. Times have changed, and some of it could be the parents or lack of parenting, and then some of it can just be the kids acting out.
Right.
Some of them are asking for attention or whatever, and then some are just pushing it to see how far they can go with it.
And I believe that society and the way that we are now in the age of technology and social media plays a role too, because they're influenced, and those young minds are easily influenced.
Yeah, and then they're playing those games with all the curse words and all that stuff on it.
Words,
so
the strip shows and the killing and everything. So we're really raising little sociopaths and psychopaths, with that. But that's a whole nother topic. But again, if you're allowing your child to control the relationship or be verbally or physically abusive to you and or to others, then that's a very toxic trait, and you're really going to raise a toxic adult. You really may want to try to rein that in and get some type of control on that. I don't know. I can't really advise because everybody's situation is different, but look for resources and or support in your community, in the school, therapist, counselor, your other parent of the child, something, but don't allow it to just go.
Yeah, because what will happen is they'll embarrass you at the very most embarrassing time, if that exists. They will embarrass you, and you will be looking for a way to crawl under a table or a chair just to hide from it.
But again, like you said, at least that's going to be the embarrassing part. But who are you raising? What type of person are they going to be to you and or to others? So, that's definitely a sign of a toxic child, and as well as adult children, because I've seen some adult children talk to and disrespect and try to financially exploit their parents.
And guilt them.
Yes, guilt. Yes, that's definitely what guilt them into doing things for them and trying to tell them, like, I didn't ask to be here. True, we know that. However, your parent don't owe you anything once you're an adult. So that is a very toxic trait for children to have, and try to use that to manipulate their parents and guilt them into doing things for them as adults and or as young children.
Because you do your best I want to think that you do your best as a parent, and then you're not going to turn your back when they get to adult age, but you can take your tight rings off of them and expect them to go out and be the person that you parented them to be.
Correct.
So you don't owe them anything. They shouldn't be able to come back and say, well, you remember that day you wouldn't let me go swimming? I'm all messed up from that.
Oh, yeah.
But you could fix it by buying me.
Correct. Hell no, and a hell no. Get the hell on out of here somewhere.
But they will guilt, and that's usually, that can be a young kid, and that also goes up into adulthood.
Correct. Very much so. Very much so. And when you say guilting and trying to make people manipulate them to do things, I think about always trying to play victim as well. Like you just said, like, this happened to me because of you, or trying to blame you as a parent for all of their shortcomings or faults or things that they're doing wrong. Yes, we may not have been the best parent, and some of us have been young parents and raised our children and didn't have all the tools that we would have had as older adults. However, don't allow yourself to become the villain and allow them to try to always play victim and pretend like you're the reason why X, Y. No, at some point we all have choices.
You have to take responsibility.
And you do have to be very accountable and take responsibility for the things that you choose to do. So that's another toxic trait, because I've seen adult children really run that in the ground and try to, I mean, again, I'm not saying that some parents haven't done some things to some children, because I know as an adult, my mom did some things that she could have probably did better.
Right.
However, you can't just use that as an excuse forever and try to manipulate and guilt a parent into doing things. That's very toxic.
Right, because at some point you have to just own it. And then it also turns into a cycle.
Yeah.
So, okay, your parents did it. Now you think you're going to keep doing that. And then your kids are going to pick up that you're doing it. So now we just got a cycle. At what point does it end and we stop blaming what happened to us in the past? Because keep in mind, there's always somebody that you can go talk to when you're ready for corrective behavior.
Correct.
So there's no excuse for you to let that be the reason why you end up being an awful adult, because it's going to affect you in the long run. Unfortunately, our parents won't always be around, and then you got to answer for your own behavior.
Correct. And that playing victim and blaming, that goes together, both of those.
Right.
And that's a trait that you see in young children as well, always blaming others for something that they know they did. They're never accountable. That's kind of toxic. So watch that, correct that, because that's going to be a toxic adult child someday.
Right.
Correct the stuff when you see it. The dishonesty, the blaming, the playing victim, being manipulative and being controlling and aggressive and physically and verbally abusive, all of those things. And another is selfishness.
Yeah. And just real quick, and don't laugh about it. Don't laugh about the behavior, because we do have people that think it's funny and they have kids doing stuff in front of the friends that they wanted them to do so they can see it. You can't approve it 85% of the time, and 15% you want to be this strong parent. You cannot do that. You got to make up your mind which way you're going to parent them, because kids are hard to reprogram. So you have to decide which way you're going to go with it.
Yeah. So the selfishness. I know we have some only children that are sometimes kind of selfish in regard to my, because they haven't been taught to share.
Right.
But when they get into school and preschool, they learn how to share.
Right.
They're exposed to that. But I'm speaking of kids that even with all of that, they remain selfish.
Yeah.
And it goes into teenage years and it goes into adulthood and on. That is a toxic trait of a child. And they are selfish to their parents as well. So when they get older, those will be the ones that won't, think about the parent.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And that can be very scary, because if you're selfish and it's me, you'll do anything to satisfy your selfishness. And that is very scary, because that pretty much means nobody's safe around you. Because if it comes down to that, you're going to only worry about you.
Right. Now, I know people may not want to think this. But I'm going to say it anyway. Some people are born with personality disorders, and that could be very well a trait that maybe someone's going to be a narcissistic type of personality type of person. The selfishness, the lacking empathy, and thinking about me, and not worrying about or thinking about others and how their behaviors affect others. So again, people may not want to think that, believe that, look at that. But if you see a child, yours and or others, that are doing these things on a constant basis, that may be something to either try to correct. And if you can't correct it, guess what? It may be a personality disorder.
Right.
Toxic traits in children, they do exist, both young children and adults. You also have some that will test boundaries constantly. Constantly, as young children and as adult children. They do not respect your boundaries. Those type of children, young and old, are showing toxic traits. Boundaries are meant for everyone.
Yeah. I think the worst thing you can do is ignore it, because it's not going to go away. It's just probably going to get worse. It's going to be like you blinked and it escalated quickly. So you don't ignore it. Address it. Confront it.
Yes. And jealousy. Kids that are jealous of the other kids, of their siblings, of the relationships you have with your other children, things like that. Yes, those are kind of toxic traits.
They are.
You may not want to look at it as such, but it is. So, and that's scary, like you said.
That is. That's a scary one. Jealousy,
just think what they may do to their sibling and or their parents if they're having these feelings and or thoughts about, being jealous of the relationships or what the other has or is doing or allowed to do and everything. And so that's why it's very important that you talk to your children, teach, mirror the behavior, be a good role model, and emotionally check in with your children about these things, because you never know what they may be thinking. But if they're showing you these traits and these signs, if they're young children, like I said, talk with them, get them some help or something if necessary, if it's to that degree. If they're adult children, pay attention to that and try to encourage them or promote them them to have some better behaviors and or get some assistance as well.
Yeah, because you don't want, and I'm being serious when I say this is not a joke, you don't want them to end up on the news. Because the reason why I say that is because you hear about all these terrible school shootings and everything.
Right.
And these kids, and not really kids because they're older, they're able to be in their room and creating bombs and plans. And then the parents on the news saying they had no idea.
How did you know?
Well, the parents that take the doors off because you don't pay any bills, so you don't get to close the door. We need more of those.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's kind of hard that you literally are just letting your child function in your house without even checking on them, finding out what they're doing, and you're ignoring behaviors because you can't tell me that you have a child that is that angry and you don't see it. I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't understand that. Even if they start just isolating themselves, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
just don't ignore it.
Emotional check-ins with your children are very important daily. Use it as a routine. I used to check in with my children every day.
Right.
After school, how was school? What'd you do? Things like that. And again, your children are still going to grow up or do the things that they want to do when you're not around and or if you are around. However, you will know and you will feel good knowing that you did what you could,
the best you could,
to make sure that you were raising a responsible, accountable, decent adult. Another one I can think of, and this is hard because all of these children are like this nowadays, but entitled.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes. And I just have to tell y'all this because I tell everybody I get a chance to tell. Somehow how these minded my business driving through the parking lot. This parent drops a perfectly healthy teenager off at the front door. And when I say perfectly healthy, wasn't nothing wrong with the teenager. And then she goes and parks the car and then she walks. So that kind of explains why when I'm following behind school buses, they stop at every house. Because these kids don't understand that it's okay to walk. It is. We walk to school every day, rain, sleet, or snow.
Correct.
We walked to school. We didn't have a bus to wait for, so we walked. We bundled up in a group, and before we knew it, we was at school. Right. So they are very entitled, and some of it, true enough, parents are creating the monsters.
Because my child, she had to go to work, and so I was like, "Well, I'm going to be out of town. We're going to create a way for you for you to get back and forth to work and everything." So my suggestion was to ride KC. Now they have the smaller buses here in Kansas City area that will actually either come to your house and or close to you to give you a ride to your location. So I'm like, okay, let's set that up. Next thing I know, she's bawling. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you?
That would have been my initial response too, Tina, but I would have been a little worried that you was never going to see me again because my fear is I'm going to get on the bus
no,
and it's going to take me somewhere and I ain't going to know how to get back home. And then you wouldn't have found out till you got back from out of town that the baby was missing.
I literally was in town, but out of town. I had to drive out of the city to another city for work. So it's like an hour and a half away. So it wasn't like I was gone out of town. But regardless,
with her.
I'm like, ma'am, excuse me, what is the problem? When I was younger, I had children. I caught the bus with kids in the snow, sleet, rain, whatever. Got on the bus, got off the bus, took them to daycare, everything. And I'm about to get you a bus to come to the house, pick you up and take you right in front of your job like I do. However, you're crying because you don't want to do that. I was walking 2-3 blocks to get to the bus stop, to get on the bus, to get off the bus, to get back on the bus, to get to work, and probably had to transfer a bus or two. And you're crying about, I'm like, these kids are some punks. First of all, because I didn't have a person to take me back and forth to work all the time. Now, granted, when I first started working, my mom would take me. However, as I got older, I had to build some sort of independence and be responsible, and especially once I had children. But I'm like, what was she, 17 years old? It wasn't like she was 14. She 17. I'm like, ma'am, you can't get on the bus in front of the house and catch it to work. And I'm like, oh my God.
What do I do when I get on? Do I sit down? Do I talk to people? What do I do?
But I'm just saying, so she really felt like, no, you need to take me. I'm like, ma'am, no, I can't, because I mean, I'm not going to miss my job to take you to your job.
Right.
Because you don't want to use the resources that I'm providing for you. So then I'm encouraging you to either find another resource or something. Because, I mean, these children, you have to teach them some sort of responsibility.
You do, and independence. You do.
Stop giving them every darn thing because, again, there's no incentive to do anything.
Yeah, and they're going to crash and burn when you're no longer around to do it for them.
If you're handing it, hand over fist and just giving them, what are they going to work for?
Right.
So you have to take some of that entitlement away, control it to the best of your ability because they're already thinking they're entitled anyway. But again, that can be a toxic trait in a child, especially an adult child.
Yeah.
Or if this is along with some of the other things that we mentioned in regarding to the manipulative behavior, the negative behavior, selfishness, controlling, abusive, verbally and or physically, lacking empathy, being dishonest, lacking boundaries. But again, I think it's even more serious in children than it is in the other relationships that we talked about, only because we have an ability to try to kind of reshape them at this point. Their little minds at a young age are soaking up everything. They're very influenced.
Right.
And so as a parent and or adult or someone in a child's life, if you see this going on, I would encourage you to really try to assist this child in creating better behaviors or getting the help that they need, because it's really sad. What are we creating?
Right.
This is true. More toxic people.
Yeah. And this is true. And just as a little step backwards to the entitled, you have to make sure your kids know how to show gratitude. And you have to make sure that they know how blessed they are, because too many of them think this is the starter kit for a kid. They don't realize they have a bunch of things that most kids don't have. And some of the kids that sit in the very class with them would love to be them. So the kids need to make sure that they know what gratitude is, make sure that they know how blessed they are. And these are not requirements for you to live the extra things that you have. Those are not requirements. And your parent is working hard to get you those things, but those are not requirements.
Right. And I mean, but again, you do have a lot of children that have toxic traits, and a lot of these parents don't know what to do with some of these kids because it's gotten out of control. And so as a therapist, I know when I was working with young children and or families as a family therapist, I would encourage the parents to try to do everything they could. We would do the therapy and everything. But at some point, when is enough, or what can you do?
Right.
So I was like, at some point, you may have to contact the police,
the authorities,
the courts, and let them know that these children are beyond parental control.
Yeah, because where there's smoke, there's fire. So they've seen it, and like I said, you ignore it. It's not what I don't want to fuss at them for that. I fuss at them too much. It's not fussing. Have conversations with them. These are people. Have conversations with them. And like Tina said, when it's out of control and you start to fear for your life, because there does come a point when some parents do, so they just let you do whatever you want to do because they don't want to deal with you. They have to be removed from your resident. And anybody that's in your house, we got to be able to communicate.
Right. And that's sad, because I was just looking at social media, one of the reels on, I don't know if it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but two out of the other day in the little 30 minutes maybe that I was looking, two parents were putting their children out and calling the police on them. One was because the guy was very abusive, kicked in the mama's door and everything, and she had smaller children in the home. They were just out of control. And the police were trying to tell her she couldn't put them out. She I just came from court on his behind because he's got a warrant. He refused to go to court. He's just really out of control.
Right.
It was really kind of pissed me off. The police was telling her she couldn't, which he was out of line. That's a whole nother story. However, it was sad that I saw that one and then turn around and saw another of an adult child. Now, he was like 17 or something or 16 or something. And the cop kept trying to say she couldn't put him out. And she's like, he's being tried as an adult in court or something. So in other words, he's grown enough to do this.
Right.
And I told him if he didn't come home by this time and if he didn't go to court, XYZ. Anyway, so he's going to try to kick her door in because she said he can't come in because he didn't do what what he's supposed to do. And it's a warrant for his arrest. That kind of stung me and took me back. But then I turned around and saw another, and this 21-year-old girl who was an adult coming in intoxicated, trying to fight her mom and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't stand disrespectful children. Yeah. Especially to mothers and or parents that are trying to be there, trying to be supportive and loving and giving and nurturing and everything. And then to turn around and be treated with such disrespect. It's like a punch in the gut and a slap in the face. I know these children will say, and I agree, they didn't ask to be here, but still, as a decent human being, you should have respect for the next person.
Right. And although they didn't ask to be here, I mean, you 21 and you want to fight your parent, I mean, nowhere is that okay. So,
and the mom,
you can't justify that.
Mom's telling the cop, all I charge her is like $50 a month. Where's she going to live for $50 a month? She won't pay me the rent. Now, I'm like, these kids are just out of control.
Well, she would find out, and then she could go and tell the officer where she's currently living for $50 a month.
Correct. That's what she need to do. But yeah, I just think it's sad that we have these children that are very disrespectful to adults, their parents, and others.
Right.
And that's a very toxic trait to have. And so I'm looking around and I'm seeing a lot of toxic children and a lot of toxic adult children. We're in a society with a lot of toxic people.
Yeah.
No wonder this topic
we
is
really are
fluent everywhere.
Honestly, we really are. It is some very weird times. It is. You spend a lot of your day, whether you're at home watching something and your mouth's dropped open, or if you're outside amongst the people and your mouth is hung open, because I'm constantly like, huh? Like, really? It's just hard to believe. So we are definitely living in some very weird times.
Weird and different times.
Yeah.
But yes, by all means, people, please pay attention to your children, especially the younger children. And if you can do anything about it to help them, by all means, please do. Because we don't want to turn around one day and all we have is toxic people.
Yeah, because then the nice people are walking around trembling and shaking, because it's going to be scary out there for the normal nice people when everybody else is on edge. So that's why it's important to address it, confront it, nip it in the bud, all that. Because, you can't control everything. Some kids do go totally opposite of what their parents have taught them. But just work your hardest so when you throw up your hands, you can really throw up your hands and feel like I did the best I could do.
And another one I can think about, and I just thought about when I was talking about social media, is bullying children. The ones that are bullying the others.
And bullying kids to death,
literally. Or bullying them, the mean girls. On social media, cyberbullying and things like that. These are toxic traits and these are toxic kids. And they're causing other kids, like telling them, why don't you just kill yourself and stuff like that. Or they ridicule them and humiliate them so much that they do. So that is a very, very toxic trait in these children. And I was looking at a video on social media, and this girl was in the lunchroom, and there was a whole bunch of people in the lunchroom. It was in Miami, I think, or Florida, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a Caucasian girl, and she was harassing and bullying. I guess she was like a Muslim or something. She had the rap on her. I'm not really sure. I'm just assuming. And she was literally like slapping the girl, knocking her tray on the floor, calling her names, pulling at her and stuff and everything. And nobody did anything.
And that's what I was about to say.
No adults did anything, first of all. And the kids were all laughing.
Terrible.
And then you heard an African-American girl said, I'm tired of your ass. She got up, she grabbed the girl that was beating the other girl and started beating on her, which was not right. And I don't condone violence, but it's sad that it took her to get fed up.
Exactly.
Because we had some toxic teachers or something in there standing around watching, but as soon as the girl grabbed a hold to her and started beating her, here come the teachers.
I'm sure.
And they're running and they're stop, no. And the kids aren't laughing anymore, which they should have never been laughing anyway. That's the problem now because everybody thinks this shit is funny and nobody's protecting the other. I don't care what race, religion, or whatever, or gender you are. Nobody has the right to treat you like that, and nobody deserves to be treated like that. We're all equal human beings. And how dare they, whoever they were, wait until the bully was being beaten to come running? Why didn't they come running when the first girl? These are toxic traits of these children. And again, the girl that jumped in, it wasn't okay for her. She should have tried to break it up, but she was just so fed up because nobody was doing anything, and this girl is sitting there just covering up, and her friend's sitting there and she's scared to death because they're just doing, these are toxic little kids.
Yeah, and silence is a sign of approval. I'm sorry. To everybody that sat there, they didn't have to say, I approve of you bullying her, but you do because you're doing nothing to stop it. And that wasn't her first day doing that, and that wasn't her first victim.
You could tell.
Yeah, she just hasn't found the right one. And like Tina said, we're not promoting violence
at all.
but somebody has to stop it because otherwise she'll just continue. Now, if that little girl would have went home and said, I'm just tired of being bullied and took herself out of here, how fair is that for the bullier's parents to still have her around and then these people don't have their child around?
Or the child that comes back to school with a, a gun or something, or a picture coming out of school or something. We're creating more and more problems if we're not addressing it. So again, if you know your child is a bully, and 9 times out of 10, you done got calls from schools or parents or something, and you're condoning that, just know that you're creating more problems down the line for your child and other children. And then you're creating an adult that's going to think that it's okay to go out here and smack people around, put their hands on people for any darn reason, which is not. And that's why, I tell people, I agree and I disagree with spankings because I think there's a way. However, if you think about it, you have a young child, you're disciplining them for doing things that aren't okay, and you're spanking them. In my mind, you're teaching a young child, because they don't have the concept that we do, that it's okay to hit someone when they do something you don't like. So that just kind of builds. I'm not the parent that says, or the person that says you shouldn't discipline or spank your child. I'm just saying there's a right way and a wrong way. And I think that we can get a lot more done by also explaining and or talking to our children and having good conversations and relationships with our children and trying to be preventative and proactive than reactive to this stuff is what I'm really saying. Instead of always reacting, how about we be proactive as parents and try to prevent some of this stuff that's happening? Because a lot of times you can't really blame some of the children if you didn't do what you were supposed to do as a parent. And then I'm a poster child for not needing it. So I don't know if my mom, before she brought me home, slipped a little clipboard with an agreement on it for me to sign at the hospital and nursery, because it was understood. Like me and my sister, we didn't even need it. Like, I don't know if we understood that she didn't take no mess or what, but she never had to whoop us because we just knew my mama don't play that. Like a look was enough for us. She could give us a look, but she never had to do that. So I do believe, like you said, it's important. Set those boundaries and don't try to be besties and all that with your kids. Stop trying to be their friend.
Make sure you're being their parent. And as they get older, maybe you can be more of a friend to them. Yeah, but when you're trying to teach them, you can't do both because it'll be confusing it'll be confusing to them. So just make sure you set those boundaries and you stand by them, because like I said, I can be a poster child for not needing whoopings, but I also know my mama didn't play.
Correct. And I get tired of people trying to always be their children's friend. Like you said, it's okay to have a good relationship with your children.
And have communication and all that.
But I told my kids all the time, I'm your mother first. And everything else second. I was actually a parent first and everything else second. And I didn't play about parenting my children, and I was not their friend. No, I'm your mother. I'm more than a friend, actually. Because I care way more, and I'm going to make sure that you can be, who you need to be. And even still, like I say, every day, if something happens after the fact, I still feel great knowing that I did what I could to make sure that they knew right from wrong, and that they had manners and they respected elderly, and that they did the right thing, and that school was a place to be taught, not to play. And again, I feel like if the parents are being more of parents, being an active, involved parent in your child's life, and stop thinking that the teachers and the schools are supposed to raise your kids. No, they're supposed to teach your kids. It's not their job to raise your child. So, but then nobody wants anybody to hit their child. But then you send the little Tasmanian devil out here and you want people to raise them, but you don't want to put the hands on. So then teach them at home how to act or to do the best that you can, so that you hopefully won't have to run into these situations. I know that it still happens. However, you're trying to prevent that. You're trying to be proactive.
Yeah, because if you do all you can, trust me, even if kids tend to sway a little, they do remember what they were taught. And you can still tell kids that have been raised correctly, even if they do something that their parent wouldn't agree with, you can still tell. But like you said, people don't want you to address children now, and then the parents will want to run out, and you like, did you understand that he was over here vandalizing my property? I lived in some very nice townhouses out in Independence when I first moved back here. I refer to them as Compton. And it's not because of the townhouse. it was the bad kids that were running around. And I think they released them in the morning and caught them at night. Like, they literally was outside the whole day. I don't even think they ate and they would find their way over to my townhouse, and I'm like, this is unfair. Literally, I loved it there. I just could not deal with the unsupervised kids, and then they're gonna have parents that don't understand that they're not behaving properly. So you
or be ready to fight you when you say something.
Stay on top of your children. If you stay on top of it, I'm telling you, won't be no room for nobody else to address your kids.
They won't have to.
Right.
But again, don't try to be your children's friend. And if you have, again, I'm going back again, if you have toxic traits, you've seen these things in your children. If you have children that are being toxic, try to do something about it.
Right.
And if you have toxic adult children, this is very important. Listen up. I'm going to get real close to the mic. If you have a toxic adult child that you've tried to raise and they're still like that, you don't have to be bothered with them. You know that, right? Fuck these kids. I mean, these adult kids, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I will not be disrespected. I will not have my boundaries tested. I won't have you constantly lying and manipulating. Now, I don't have to deal with you. Once I've raised you and you're an adult, I don't have to deal with your behaviors that I've asked you not to have and that I've tried to do my best to prevent you from having. You have a right as a parent, once you've raised your adult child, to have some peace in your life. And you don't have to continue to take that mental and or physical abuse or those toxic type of behaviors from a child. Just know that. I know that people think family, and they think they can't cut them off. But like I was telling Doc before we started talking on this mic, cut them off at the toe. If they're not good people, they just not good people. Hey, I did my best. Maybe they have a personality disorder. Maybe they need some mental help, something. But you don't have to have your whole damn life in peace disturbed because you have this adult child that's still trying to be a child or trying to manipulate you and gaslight you and acting like a fool. You know what the heck I'm talking about.
Right.
Cut them off.
Right.
Cut them off.
And then if this is going to be eye-opening, but if you start to notice that behaviors might be being mirrored from something that, because you may not realize that you're doing it until you see your child doing it and realize they're getting that from me. Then that's when you have to deal with yourself as well.
Correct.
I'm not saying that it's always you, but sometimes children do pick up behavior from their parents. The people you're most, and they say you're most like the people that you spend your most time around.
Right, and you're the first teacher.
Yeah.
So again, yes, they may have picked up some stuff from you. They may have picked up some stuff from the streets, from TV, from social media, from their peers at school, from I don't know where. However, if you think that you've done the best that you can do and you know that you're trying to have a good relationship with and they just refuse to, don't drive yourself nuts worrying and stressing out talking about, oh, but a child. Sometimes you just have to pull back from people. Toxic people are just that. And you can do all that you can. That's just kind of like when people are talking about their children get strung out on drugs and stuff like that. Or their children have mental issues and they refuse to get help. Well, at what point can you feel like you've done everything that you can? I know I'm a parent of 2 biologically, and I will go to the ends of the earth for my children. I will walk on fire for them. However, if I am doing more than they're doing and they don't want to change and or I've done countless things in countless hours, I will not sacrifice my mental health or my peace because I know that I've done everything possibly humanly possible within me to do the things that I needed to do for my child. But I won't sacrifice myself. I love them dearly and they both know it. You ask them and they'll tell you. I love them like to the moon and back and then some, to infinity and beyond is our thing, we would say. Yes, but I'm not going to allow them to just drive me nuts.
Yeah, because I can only imagine as a parent how stressful that is. And you literally will stroke out. You literally will have a heart attack or stroke out trying to do more than what your body is literally. You know how you can feel when you've gotten so angry that you have to calm yourself down because you feel like I can only imagine that that's probably how it feels as a parent when you went to great lengths and it's just not working anymore.
You're exhausted. You're mentally just tapped out. And at some point you have to just say, okay. done everything.
Yeah.
Because I've looked on at family, friends, and clients, and they've tried. But some of these children, they really do, adult children also, I'm speaking of, have like mental issues and need help, but they refuse to get it. They may have like a bipolar mood disorder, but refuse to take medicine. They may be schizophrenic, but refuse to take medicine. So those situations are mentally straining and draining and exhausting and sad. And it's very depressing for the parent that's trying to help their child. I get it. But at what point are you going to be able to be at peace with yourself, knowing that if you can't make them do the things that they need to do, are you really going to? I mean, because if you kill yourself, then what? They're still going to be here doing the same shit that they're doing.
Right.
You can only do what you can do. And when enough is enough, don't feel guilty for cutting yourself off to preserve your own sanity and peace, because your child is still going to do what they want to do if they decide they're not going to do it. And most likely it's mental health, usually bipolar mood disorder, schizophrenia, and or substance abuse.
I was going to say drug abuse, substance abuse is very bad. And at that point, they're being selfish, because that's a selfish trait. So when they're coming around, they're probably coming around asking you for things. And then when you don't give it to them, they're upset. And
what's really sad and scary is these people that are refusing to get the help that they need and or do the things that they need to do will and can end up hurting you. Because the mental illness will take, over.
Right.
Or the substance abuse will take over. And now you're not dealing with that person. You're dealing with the disorder and or disease.
Yeah.
So please be careful in that aspect. I'm not telling anyone not to be a loving parent or a mother. I'm just saying if you have children that are suffering from, mental health illness and or substance abuse or something, not just being a toxic person, but actually have some real serious issues, then by all means, try to do what you can to get them help, but please be careful and please preserve yourself and your own health, mental as well.
Yeah, I definitely would say make sure that you're good. Make sure that you're good too. Definitely preserve your mental, because that's not going to do you any good to be stressed out beyond recognition, and they still have the problem anyway. So for sure, take care of yourself.
Right. And don't feel guilty, because I know that's what a lot of parents operate out of guilt. They do shit out of guilt, because it's like, what are you teaching them? You're teaching them to keep guilting you into doing stuff. And you're not teaching them good boundaries at all, because anytime you're continuing to do this stuff out of guilt, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. And they're going to run into somebody that doesn't work for. So eventually it's going to run out anyway. So it's just a bad trait.
Yeah. Don't feel guilty. Don't let toxic children, adult, ruin your peace and or your life.
Right. And make your life full of toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that TikTok, there's a lady on there that I think that's all she does is FTK videos. But there's a lot of them. And I know why. Because some of these damn kids are toxic as hell, especially the adult ones. I'm not really talking about the little bitty there, but when I say FTK, I'm talking about the adult children that you tried and they still on that BS. FTK. Cut them off at the toe.
Yeah, because I've been a spectator. And I've seen some things and I'm like, I know you should never say if that was me, but I'm almost sure. I mean, I could possibly be behind bars telling stories, because some of the stuff that you see, it is just ridiculous. It's hard to believe that anybody would really tolerate it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got any tips or gems or anything you want to leave them with today?
I just want to express that even though you are a parent, you still have to take care of self too. So never think that you have to just eliminate all self-care and common sense for yourself to only take care of kids, because you still have to live. And once those kids are grown, if they're young, and once they're grown and gone, then you won't have an ideal or be able to identify yourself, because you've literally given your all, and I mean all, to them. And you just can't. You still have to be a person that takes care of themselves too.
Right. Well, until next time, people, stay hopeful
and stay curious.
Before we part ways, we invite you to share your own stories, thoughts, and reflections with us. Connect with us on social media, reach out through our website, or simply leave a comment on your preferred podcast platform. Feel free to leave us in voicemail at 816-607-1243 with any thoughts, concerns, or questions that you'd like shared on Lifing 101 or just answered or addressed. If you prefer to send us an email, feel free to do so by sending it to our website, lifing101pod.com or send us an email to info@lifing101pod.com. Your insights and experiences enrich our shared understanding of this incredible journey we're all a part of. Please subscribe to this podcast and follow our website, lifing101pod.com, and find and follow us on your favorite social media platforms. Stay hopeful, stay curious, and keep embracing the vibrant, unpredictable, and awe-inspiring journey that we call life. Goodbye for now, and may your days be filled with endless wonder.